In Parsha Bo, we have a number of examples of how far a Jew needs to go, and this is certainly critical today when so much of what's going on in the world involves the Jewish people, the focus on how we behave, how we conduct ourselves. Clearly, the issue of Kiddush HaShem and Chil HaShem are paramount in it should be paramount in a person's mind as to, how am I conducting myself? And in this week's Parsha, we see how far a Jew really needs to go. Just a number of quick examples. Moshe Rabbeinu says, "Vayika chatzos halayla," as he tells Paroi what to expect when it comes to the ultimate Makkah's Bechoros. He says, "Vayika chatzos halayla." Now, when it actually happened later on in the Parsha, it says, "Vahi bachatzos halayla." So, Vasepis, why would all of a sudden Moshe Rabbeinu, who knew that the Makkah was coming exactly at midnight, why would he say kachatzos halayla? And Rashi explains, from famous answer, but one that really requires us to start sort of reflecting, because Rashi tells us, well, if I say bachatzos halayla, then they're going to be expecting it to be exactly at midnight. That was Moshe Rabbeinu's statement. What happens if it doesn't happen exactly at midnight based on my estimation? Now, we know HaKadosh Baruch Hu's midnight is exactly midnight, but who says that I have, the perfect watch, the perfect measurement to measure that? So my mind, it happened maybe a minute later, maybe 5 minutes later, based on the miscalculations that the Mitzri would have made in that situation. And what would happen? V'yomer Moshe b'doihi. Okay, they're going to say Moshe made a mistake. Moshe made a mistake. I mean, is this really what I need to be thinking about right now? What are the thoughts that they're going to have when it ultimately happens? We know it's going to happen. So let's say even if midnight was in their minds at 11:55 and it didn't come yet, so for 5 minutes they're laughing. For 3 minutes they're laughing, whatever. Moshe b'doihi. I mean, it's going to come, and when it's going to come, the last thing on their minds is going to be Moshe b'doihi. They've got havoc being wrecked throughout the entire country. People are dying. People are screaming on the streets. There's complete chaos. And Moshe Rabbeinu is walking out with his head up high that the Makkah came. And an honest estimation, if the person actually is thinking about that, he would actually calculate, I must have had a wrong estimation. I guess Moshe Rabbeinu was really right, but my watch didn't have the right time, and my measurements were wrong. But so, do I really care? Why not say it exactly the way it is? It's going to be bachatzos halayla. Let him say bachatzos halayla. And the answer, obviously, is that that's not the way we're supposed to respond. Sounds like it puts a tremendous burden on Klal Yisrael, but yeah, it does put a tremendous burden on Klal Yisrael. Our job, therefore, Rashi is telling us that in order to avoid any possible Chil HaShem, and the Chil HaShem doesn't mean some headlines, some incredibly horrible headlines, of some person being dragged into jail with handcuffs and being accused of the most horrific things. Obviously, that's the Chil HaShem, but that's not the Chil HaShem we're talking about over here. The Chil HaShem is simply Moshe b'doihi. He made a mistake. He's not exact. Doesn't know what he's really saying. It's not exactly the biggest crime. It's not the biggest horrific situation, but nevertheless, this is what a Jew has to think about. This is, how am I putting my best foot forward? Am I going to be seen in the most positive light? And even though there's so much that's going to come, that's going to sort of completely sway that and to sort of completely obliterate those kind of thoughts in a very short period of time, even for that short period of time, it's wrong. And we see this concept really throughout Chazal, and even this week's Parsha, we have the fact that the Bechor, it wasn't just the Bechor Mitzrayim, but the Bechor Hashvi, even the Bechors of the captive people who were not part of the Egyptians, they had other people in jail. And so yes, did they deserve it? They deserved it on some level. They deserved it, but the Rashi says the motivation is Shalyomu Yerosai Hevia Peronios, that there shouldn't be people saying, this was their their God that brought about this plague, that it wasn't the Jewish God. Since the Bechor Hashvi was saved, if that would be the case, if they wouldn't die as well, then people are going to say it's not the Bechor, it's not the God of the Jewish people that produced this incredible plague, this final plague. It was the Bechor Hashvi. I mean, again, what are we exactly worried about? Who are we talking about here? We're talking about Klal Yisrael. After 9 makkahs that were clearly performed by Moshe Rabbeinu, the 10th makkah clearly predicted by Moshe Rabbeinu. So because in the 10th makkah there were some other beneficiaries of the makkah, so therefore they're going to, in order to avoid that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, again, it's not talking about killing innocent people. Obviously they had their problems, but the point is that there was a specific decision by HaKadosh Baruch Hu to wipe out those Bechors now, as opposed to any other time, to avoid the appearance of any diminishing of the Kavod Shemayim. Because if they're going to say, and who's going to say? What, a couple of strange peoples, a couple of people whose clarity and intellectual honesty is not clearly in play here, and that it's not working, they're maybe, I don't know, you got to really wonder who's going to say, after all these plagues, and after clearly everything being predicted by Moshe Rabbeinu, it's not Moshe's God that's pulling this off. It's the Egyptian God. It's the captive's God that's pulling it off. You'd say, come on, why do I have to be worried about such a guy? Why do I have to be worried about such a ridiculously far-fetched thought? But Teretz is, we do. That's our job. Our job is to go above and beyond, to be sensitive to how we're viewed. I just heard recently Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky, again, that was many years ago, maybe 40 years ago or so, 50 years ago that he said this. But he said, you go in a shul on Shabbos, don't wear the talis over your jacket outside. Put it under a coat or put it underneath your jacket. Don't stick it to the goyim. Don't let them see something that's going to sort of, again, a lot of people have the attitude, what do you mean? It's a free country. I'm a Jew. I'm proud of my mitzvahs. But there's another sentiment that in a way, you're overtly sticking it to them. Thinking about myself, I do wear my towels. I don't really see too many goyim on the streets before 8 o'clock at Chayser, so you have to really think it over. But Lamaisa, clearly you're walking in New York and it's busy and it's hustle and bustle and many people see you. Back in those days, it wasn't such a long time ago. That was his point. That what are you sticking? What are you showing the world sort of who you are, and in a brazen way. And again, this is very subtle, but in so many things that on the flip side, how we know Rabbi Yaakov, just one of many gedolim that we know the stories about how far they went out to be nice and to be courteous and to go to incredible lengths to Mekadesh Shem Shemayim, incredible lengths to show the goyim how nice we are and how proper we are, and how in no way ever to diminish their view of us. Even though, what do you mean? Who cares? If they hate us, they hate us. What difference does it make? We're talking about Mitzrayim. We're talking about people who are clearly in a bad spiritual state, where maybe the thinking should be, the last thing I have to be concerned about is what's a mitzvah going to say? Moshe Badoihi, is that a legitimate argument? The plague happened, and Moshe is predicting Makas Bechoros, and you're going to tell me that it was the God of the captives, and there are other. If we go through and we watch this concept throughout Chumash and throughout Chazal, this is something that comes up all the time. So certainly, when you think about it in these terms, how far away we have to go from Rachman al-Tzan Chil Hashem to do things that appear in the eyes of the Goyim to be something negative, how horrible that is, but more so on the positive end, to really find every single way to be like that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, to greet everybody first in the morning, be that person who says the good morning, where Goyim will say, wow, that's the Jewish people. How many Gentiles came to Rabbi Yaakov's Levaya, they say, because of the incredible conduct he had in his community and in his hospital. The nurses all came because they just couldn't believe such a person, the way he was so nice to them. These are all incredibly important factors at play. Look how far Kadosh Baruch Hu sort of twists Hashgacha Pratis, twists the laws of nature of the world in order to facilitate this message that there should never be an attitude that the Jewish people that represent the Kadosh Baruch Hu in any way are not acting appropriately. So, Bez Hashem, if we could be sensitive to this concept and work on ourselves to the concept of Mekad Hashem Shemayim, Bez Hashem would be a schus for Klai Yisrael, and certainly a schus for us to go Michayil L'Chayil.